Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Primetime News. We have a lot of stuff to go over today, but we're going to jump right into it with an important story about a new law being proposed that is going to fine certain sellers for how they pack and ship their items. All right, so I'm going to show you how ridiculous this proposed law is with a visual example as I explain it. But according to this New Jersey bill, which is sponsored by Assemblyman John McKeon, any large online retailer who ships out a product like this small glass animal figure here in a box that is more than twice the size of the actual item will be fined between $250 and $500 per offense. I don't know how they plan on enforcing that. Are they going to have box police? Are they going to have a big box hotline that they want customers to call to report the companies? I guess we'll have to wait and find out the details on that one. But for now, it is applied to large online retailers. So how do they define that? They define that as any retailer who has at least 75,000 square feet of business space and at least 50 employees. Now, the thing to be concerned about is if something like this went through as a bill, where else can it go and who else can it apply to? What other situations would it apply to as well? Because you have to think about, why is someone doing this in the first place? And what actually happened here, the origin of this is that John McKeon says that he ordered a magnet for his granddaughter. Now, I'm just going to give the example of my Betty Boop magnet. I'm sure that's not what he ordered for his granddaughter, but that's what I have around here. I got this from Sylvia Young, so thanks, Sylvia. And he says it came in a box that was at least 20 times the size of the magnet. So, something like something ridiculous like this, So we've all seen situations like that when we've ordered things on Amazon. And, as individual sellers, it obviously doesn't make a lot of sense for us because we're going to put it in a more appropriately sized package. But for these massive companies, the reasons why they do that is that they're more focused on operational efficiency and getting the items out, as opposed to taking the extra time to find a custom sized box for the item. So that's why it happens. And if this went into effect and they had to take that extra time to get that custom box, that's going to involve more time, and that's going to wind up costing more money for consumers. But as small sellers on eBay or wherever else it is that you sell, you have to be concerned about this bill eventually, if it did go through, then going to smaller sellers. So, and also being applied to other products, because he actually says when he got the box, there was more packing material than product. So what if you used too much bubble wrap? What if you use too much or too many packing peanuts or too many air pillows, that sort of thing? So as you can see, it could quickly get out of control. I want to know what you think about this. Do you think this is actually a good idea? I mean, I describe it as ridiculous, but you certainly are welcome to your own opinion. Let me know that down below in the comments. I am going to suggest that you reach out to the Assemblyman's office. I'm going to do that myself. I'm going to leave a link to his website down below, so you could send an email over there. Let him know that you think it's ridiculous. If you live in New Jersey, your message will have a bigger effect because you're a resident there, but certainly feel free to reach out of state. In other big news this week, eBay stock sunk after their fourth quarter and annual 2021 results came out. The results were pretty disappointing, as was their future guidance. Now, basically what the results showed is that there was a 9% decline in the number of annual active buyers on the site. That's something that we as sellers obviously want to see increase, because more buyers equals more customers. So the expectation was that there'd be 156 million annual active buyers, but in actuality is 147 million. So that's problematic. The other issue is that there's a decline in the percentage of active sellers on the site. So that declined by 8% to 17 million. Now, in addition to wanting more customers, we also want to see that more product is being sold on the site. That's how we would prefer eBay to get their revenue, from the actual sales of products. And the best way that that number is represented is through what's called the GMV, the gross merchandising volume. Now, eBay's changed the formula to that recently so that it now includes taxes, and it also includes shipping fees, but it's still the best overall sense of how much product is being sold on the platform. And that number decreased by 10%. So if you look at all the independent coverage of eBay's earning report, it's negative from every single place that I looked. The only place where you ever saw any positive coverage, like this over here, where you see it says eBay reports better than expected fourth quarter and full year 2021 results, is when the actual story is not independent and it's based off of, as you could see here, eBay's press release. See, it says PRN Newswire. They're just copying and pasting that. And basically what they're focusing on there is that their revenue went up to 2.6 billion. So they report a 5% increase. Now, Wall Street looks at it as, well, that's kind of what we expected you to do anyway, but eBay's kind of touting it a bit. So you sit there and you might scratch your head a bit and say, well, how, if all these other things went down, how could the revenue go up? Well, one of the big reasons that it went up is they had a big increase again in the amount of money that they're making through promoted ads. And so basically the money is coming out of our pockets, and that's not what we want to see. So I really hope that eBay could get back to what their roots were when they started out. They're kind of trying to explain this away by saying, well, the people who are dropping off in terms of buyers are what they call low value buyers. I hate that term. I really wish they'd stop using that, because that also makes sellers feel like low value sellers. My friend Don, the auction professor, has talked about that a lot. We talked about that recently on his live show, which you should go check out as well, where we covered some of this there too. But they're focusing now more on, because they can't, really explain these losses well to their investors. They're talking about, well, we had an increase, a 3% increase in what they call high value buyers. So the CEO, Jamie Iannone, actually literally gave this example of a high value buyer on eBay. He says, this is the high value buyer. The high value buyer wakes up and they get a cup of coffee, right? So I don't know, I'll just give this example here. They take a sip of their coffee. All right. And they look at their phone. Let me get my phone. They look at their phone. They open up the eBay app. And he says, and before you know it, they spent $2,000 on the site. Do any of you have buyers who are doing that, who are just, they're waking up and they're just spending $2,000? Probably not. Probably not. Most people are. So who are these people that eBay is focusing on? I'll show you. All right, so eBay put up, this just goes to show how out of touch they are. They put out this Instagram show called eBay Sellers Club. Now, if you watch it, these sellers look nothing like the average seller that I think is represented by who is on YouTube. That should be eBay Seller Club. Like people like us who are selling Mountain Dew bottles and seahorse-shaped bells. Like that's us, or mugs and stuff like that. But no, what they're focused more on are people who are selling these high value items like sneakers and like high value sneakers. I'm not even talking like $80 pair of sneakers. I'm talking like sneakers that people are spending thousands of dollars on, or luxury handbags and luxury watches. So I'm going to show you a little clip of this video and just see if you think this is something that you could even relate to or that your average buyers or sellers relate to.
So the Grail watch that I chose is the Rolex Rainbow Daytona, the rose gold version, which personally I happen to think is the best one. When they added the sapphires on the dial that kind of matched the gradation on the bezel, it looks a lot better than the previous version, in my opinion. Men like it, women like it, everybody likes it. It makes kids smile.
It's a big deal. Everything about that watch is a big deal. It is extremely limited, and it's probably triple retail. Is that right? 4 times retail?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, I think one of the most daunting things for customers is buying expensive things from people you don't know on the internet. And obviously with the authenticity guarantee, it kind of mitigates that risk there.
As a seller who does 99% of my business on eBay, the authenticity guarantee has been super effective for me.
Absolutely.
Come on. Listen, I don't have any objection with people buying and selling expensive watches on eBay, and I don't have any objection with them putting an advertisement out about it. But please, eBay, get back to your core buyers and sellers. I told this to an eBay representative when I had one on my live show several years ago, and I still stand by this. I say that they should have a consistent advertisement that over and over again has the following scenario. You have an average family walking around, and either the mom, dad, daughter, son, whoever is looking for a particular item. I don't care what it is. Could be, like I said, like a cup, or it could be some phone accessory or whatever. And they're looking, they can't find it. And one of them finds it on eBay and says, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, I found it on eBay. I found it on eBay. I found it on eBay." And you just keep drilling that over and over into people's heads so that they think to look on eBay to find stuff that they're looking for. That would really bring a lot of people over to the site, so that that's a good starting off point for them when they're doing a search, instead of always going immediately to Amazon. Boy, oh boy, I hope they could get back to that. Now, while eBay stock sunk 11% after releasing their earnings report, Etsy stock soared 18% after releasing their fourth quarter earnings results. And the reason for that is that they beat the estimates. So, whereas they were expected to bring in $685 million worth of revenue, they actually brought in $717 million worth of revenue. In addition to that, Etsy also has a very strong buyer base. They're at 96.3 million active buyers. Now, compare that to eBay. We often talk about eBay having the biggest buyer base out there, and that's true except for Amazon, but that gap looks like it's continuing to narrow more and more. Etsy continues to grow and gain strength. Now, even though Etsy did say that their first quarter isn't going to be as good as they would like because of what they said were changes in pandemic related buying habits, investors still were confident in the company based on how things are going overall. They don't have that same confidence with eBay. Now, don't get me wrong, Etsy's not without its problems. We talked about that last week in the Etsy Exposed video. If you didn't see that, click the link up top. But we've also talked about how Etsy has made many positive improvements. For example, they've invested millions of dollars in improving customer service and also towards improving marketing and advertising to get sellers' products out there, more visible to buyers. Now, that does come with a cost, and Etsy has decided to pass some of that cost along to sellers. As of April 11th, the transaction fee is going to go up from 5% to 6.5%. Now, some sellers are going to get upset at that, but if history is any judge, eventually they're just going to get used to it and kind of go with the flow. I say that because in 2018, the fee increased a similar amount from 3.5% to 5%. And, people grumbled and then just moved along with it. All right, now, during the middle of my live show this week, Russia invaded Ukraine. I am actually half Ukrainian. That's not a joke. I have said that many times before this happened, and I am going to be paying very close attention to this, especially because of that. And I'm also going to be paying attention to any reselling related changes that happen, and some started this week because of this situation. eBay announced that they have temporarily suspended the global shipping program service into Ukraine and Russia. They also suspended temporarily eBay's international standard delivery service into Ukraine, and they also have extended delivery time for eBay international standard delivery service to Russia for purchases made on or after February 21st. They also told sellers to be on the lookout for items to be sent back to them in terms of returns if they can't make it to their destination. So be on the lookout for that. You also might want to, if you're doing any kind of international shipping, to uncheck Russia and Ukraine, so they're excluded countries, so you don't have to deal with any issues related to people trying to buy from there. Although eBay may automatically exclude people who tried to do that from those countries. So I'm not saying you necessarily have to do those things, but you can go in and take a look and see if you want to do that. And also this week, FedEx temporarily suspended services to and from Ukraine. UPS did so as well. Now, just a brief note here. If you happen to be a fan of the primetime news, I've always said, and it's true, it takes a lot of time to put these broadcasts together. So if you would like to support the continuation of this broadcast, you can do so by clicking the join button over here and becoming a member. Comes with lots of perks as well. It's a lot of fun. So thank you everyone who has supported the channel in that way. All right, so now it's time for our primetime crime series. And we had several announcements this week from the United States District Attorney's Office, starting with the District of Massachusetts. There was a Springfield woman who was indicted for reselling stolen goods and money laundering out of a pawn shop that she owned. So she actually purchased the stolen goods from people and then she resold them. And I use the term resell here because she actually did purchased them, probably not for a high price since it was stolen originally. And between 2018 and 2021, she made $2.1 million in revenue through these sales. She was selling the stuff as new, and I doubt all of the stuff actually was new that she was selling. This next case is actually a sentencing through the District of Maryland of a United States postal worker sentenced to 6 years in federal prison for bank and mail fraud conspiracy. Only 25 years old. What she was doing was she was stealing checks and credit cards and debit cards, and she was then using the information from that to steal people's identities. She was opening up fake bank accounts and then depositing money illegitimately into those accounts and using the money to make all sorts of transactions for herself. All right, now in this next case, this is something everyone should pay attention to because it has to do with a meeting in person and doing a transaction based on an advertisement you've seen online. In this case, what happened is that someone went to do a meetup based on an offer up ad to get some expensive jeans. Now, the person didn't have a good feeling about things based on the ad, but didn't go with their gut. And that's a first tip right there. If your gut is telling you something is off, listen to your gut. But this person then went to meet at an apartment complex at 11:30 p.m. at night to get the expensive jeans. Both of those things are bad ideas. You want to meet in a public place with good lighting during the daytime, preferably a safe zone or a police station. And many cities have designated safe zone areas. If you can't do that, then there's also big public grocery stores that you can meet in front of. There's plenty of other options, but an apartment complex at 11:30 p.m. definitely not a good idea. When the person saw that the jeans were not exactly what was advertised and didn't want them, started to drive away. The seller got upset at the item not as described claim and decided to shoot at the buyer or potential buyer. And fortunately, the buyer was far enough away that by the time the trajectory of the bullet hit the person, it didn't penetrate the skin and it just caused a bruise. But a little bit closer, this person could have been seriously injured or killed. And there have been instances of things like that happening. So please, please, follow all of the safety tips. There's lots of them out there online. And if you're interested in watching an old video of mine with a really funny thumbnail, check out the video that I did called How Not to Get Killed on Craigslist. All right, now this next one should go without saying, but please do not try to sell your breast milk on eBay. Yes, I actually said that. Yes, there's people who have been trying to do that. And yes, eBay has had to take down a bunch of listings lately from people trying to do this. It's very unsafe. There's all sorts of harmful bacteria, drugs, and viruses that could be in breast milk, viruses such as HIV, just a very bad idea. You can't temperature control it effectively. So, please, please don't try to sell it, and definitely don't try to buy it. All right, now there were several new services announced this week. eBay announced a new integration with QuickBooks Accounting. They have been integrated with them in the past, but the problem is that when they moved over to managed payments, you had to use another program called OneSAS to make things work properly. And now with this new integration, you don't have to do that. And to promote this, eBay has put out a promotional rate for people who want to use the product. I'm not telling you to use the product. I personally don't use it. I'm old school. I use Excel, but many people love it. And if you'd like to use it, just letting you know, you go check out their new rates. So the post office has announced the nationwide rollout of a program they call USPS Connect Local. And so what this is going to formally allow for is for local businesses to get their packages or envelopes delivered within the same day or the next day if you bring the package in by whatever the designated time is. Now, for a lot of areas, this has been happening already, but this is just more of a formal way for USPS to market this type of service, as well as rolling out more Sunday deliveries for people. So if you go to the website, you could type in your zip code here and figure out if this service has reached your area yet. All right, so one of the things that happened during the pandemic is that Amazon sellers who used FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, they basically saw the end of being able to send in unlimited amount of merchandise because they were really restricting the types of products that they would store and that they would prioritize in terms of shipping. So now with things easing up some, what they have announced in response to sellers who have been complaining about these restrictions is that they are allowing sellers to bid for more storage space, and it's an open bid. So you basically tell them the most that you are willing to pay, and you don't know what other people are offering unless you ask them. And then basically they will determine whether or not your bid is sufficient. And if it is, then you could have more storage space. Now, the thing that is interesting is that they are allowing for you to get credits if your stuff sells. So if they give you the extra storage space and your stuff sells, you could actually wipe out 100% of that fee. So it's an interesting way that Amazon is incentivizing people to actually send products into them that can move quickly. Smart move on their part, and we'll see how it works out. So there's another interesting service that's out there. It's not new, but I'm not sure how many people are aware of it. And it comes up in the context of opportunity for people to buy a portion of Batman #1. That is a very rare comic book. And there's lots of rare comic books out there that are worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that the average person just can't afford, but they would like to have a piece of it. And so what some of these companies allow you to do is to go in and invest into it with others. You don't have to know the other people, but it's opened up to bidding, and you could basically go in and say, all right, I want to buy, let's say, $1,000 worth of Batman #1. And so you can make an investment and you would own a percentage of the comic book. And so if you wanted to then resell the comic book or your share of it, basically what happens is that the investors come together as a group and they vote and decide if they want to sell it. And if they do decide overall to sell it, then the book will be sold. And if it makes a profit, you would have the chance of bringing in a profit from that share or multiple shares of the comic book that you own. So it's an interesting concept. I don't do it, but I just wanted people to be aware of it. Now, our Be on the Lookout item this week is actually a group of items. It's porcelain china. There's an interesting article that came out in the Desert Sun this week talking about the history of porcelain china, its popularity, then its demise, and then its resurgence. And it's easy to take porcelain china for granted these days when we see it. But back when it was originally created in around 600 AD by the Chinese, it took them 400 years before they could figure out all the different types of additives that they needed to use, plus that they had to heat it to 2,650 degrees before they were able to come up with a product that could withstand moderate handling without breaking, because without that, it's very, very fragile. So Westerners saw it and they were fascinated by it and they wanted to know how to make it. But of course, the Chinese were not going to give those secrets away. And so it took a lot of experimenting, but it wasn't until the 18th century when there was a German alchemist named Johann Böttcher who figured out how to do this himself. And then it became even more popular in Western cultures because they were able to make it themselves. So what happened though is that once you start to have this explosion in modern times of mass-produced dishwasher safe eating materials, the popularity of China really went away. People just started to file it into their cabinets and put it into their drawers and not think about it again. But during the pandemic, a lot of people had more time on their hands and they started to go through these things that were in their drawers and take them out and start eating off of them. And then they started to search for them and they wanted to add things to their collection. And so there's been a big explosion in terms of people seeking out these types of items. And also it's exploded in terms of reselling. So definitely, if you're out there, don't think of porcelain china as junk. If you used to think of it that way in the past, I'll look into it because you can make some pretty amazing flips out there with porcelain china. Now, there's a really interesting video and article that came out this week on the $644 billion business of reselling returned items. So liquidation, as you could see from the size of this facility, it is just a massive business. I want to show you a little clip of this video just to give you a sense of how massive this is. And then we'll talk about a couple of services and companies that you should definitely be aware of.
Inside this massive warehouse in Texas, the aisles aren't lined with your typical merchandise.
This would be the antithesis of your traditional e-commerce fulfillment center. This is a bundle of snowflakes where every individual box might have a different set of accessories, might be slightly different in condition quality.
Every aisle is filled with returns from Amazon, Target, Sony, Home Depot, and more, in the process of being liquidated.
These liquidators are coming in and they're buying up all of this product in bulk. They're then packaging it, palletizing it, and reselling it. So it's turned into a much bigger portion of the industry than we've ever seen before.
Now, if you're interested in getting into the area of liquidation reselling, there are several websites you should at least take a look at. These are not paid advertisements, by the way, for these sites. They have no idea that I'm saying this. I just happen to know that they are big players in the space. But do your homework and see if it's something that you think might be a good fit for you. But liquidation.com is the biggest player in the space for sure. You could go and get pallets of returns there, and you could bid on the site for lots of individual items as well. Their main competitor is B Stock. So that's another place where you could look. If you are more interested in getting individual products like electronics and tools and that sort of thing, there's a site called Secondipity. I like that name to go take a look at. And another great one that a lot of people don't know about is Gov Deals. I've explored that myself and I've almost pulled the trigger on a few deals in the past, but they basically liquidate things that the government gets access to by either seizing properties and things like that. And so it has to go somewhere and they put it up on this auction page. So you could see everything's organized by category and just take a look, explore, and, like I said, see if there's something in there that might be a fit for you. And in our inspirational story of the week, someone saw a listing for a fireman's helmet on eBay. And somehow the family found out about this and they wound up getting the helmet back. They're absolutely thrilled. Let me show you.
There are a lot of good people out there that truly believe that the helmet should come back to the family, which we could never thank everybody as much as we wanted to.
And the family says they plan to hang that helmet proudly somewhere in their home.
Well, that's one of the best parts about reselling, folks, is being able to reconnect people with products like that. It's absolutely amazing. Glad to see that that went back to the family. I hope that you enjoyed all of the interesting news clips from this week. If so, make sure you comment down below, and I'll see you back at the next one, everyone. Take care.